Okay, we're asked to factor this quadratic completely. So we want to look at what we have. And the first thing, whenever we're asked to factor, you always want to look for your GCF, or your greatest common factor. So when I look at 80, 28, and 24, we want to figure out what can we factor out of all of those terms possibly. Okay, so when we look at this, what it would be something we could factor out of these? Well, as I look at this problem, I look at my 28 because I know the only thing that I can factor out of 28 is 7 or 4. And I know 24 I can factor a 4, and 80 I can factor a 4. So it looks like my GCF would be 4. So when I factor 4 out of 80, I get 20w squared plus 7w minus 6. So I factored the 4 out, and then I'm left with 20w squared plus 7w minus 6. And this is going to be, let's see if I can get this to focus a little better. There we go. And so we're not done yet. I want to see if I can factor this some more. Okay, so I have 4, and I'm going to see if I can factor it. Since this is a quadratic expression, I'm going to see about reverse foiling. Now, there's different ways we can do this. We can do it trial and error. You may have learned a different method. I like using what's called the box method. So I'm going to come over here to the side, and we're going to use the box method to factor this. And in the first box goes the first term. The last box goes the last term. And then I multiply these two together. So I get 120 w squared. Well, I know the only way I can get w squared is w times w. These two should add to give me the middle term and multiply. Okay, so I'm sorry, multiply and give me the 120 w squared. So what are some different factor pairs here that not only will I multiply and get 120, but I can add or subtract and get 7. So that's what we're looking for. What will multiply and give me 120, but add or subtract to give me 70. And so since this is a negative, my last term's a negative, I know I've got to have one sign of each. I've got to have a plus and a minus. Otherwise, there's no way I can get a negative here. So I'm looking at, and we could do 1 plus or minus 1 times plus or minus 120 plus or minus 2 times plus or minus 60 plus or minus 3 times plus or minus 40. Okay. Now none of these will add or subtract to give me 7 yet, so we can keep going. Plus or minus 4 times plus or minus 30. That gives me 120. 5, we can see, will 5 divide into 120? And 5 will go into 120. 24 times. But still, those will not give me 7. So plus or minus 6 times plus or minus 20, because 6 times 20 is 120. And we can say, well, we're getting closer, but not quite to the 20 yet, or not quite to the 7, sorry. To get 7 is what we're trying to get. 7 won't go into 120 evenly. Let's try 8. 8 will go into 120 15 times. Oh, wait a minute. If we look at 15 minus 8, that would give me a positive 7. So it looks like a positive 15 and a negative 8 will multiply and give me a negative 120. Sorry, that should have been a negative 120, negative and a positive. And we'll add and give me a positive 7. So again, a positive 15, and then a negative 8. Remember, these two should multiply and give me the negative 120w squared, and add or subtract, which these will, 15 minus 8 will give me a positive 7. So we're getting closer to what we're looking for. Now, again, continuing with the box method, greatest common factor, that's going to be 5w, because I can factor a 5 out of 20, 5w, and I can factor a 5w out of 15w. Greatest common factor here is going to be a negative, and I can factor a 2 out of both of these. And then the first column, greatest common factor, and it looks like I could factor a 4w. And then last but not least, it doesn't look like there's anything but a 1. That's going to be a common factor here. Oh, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. It looks like it's going to be 3. I'm not sure what I was thinking. 3 goes into 15 and 3 will go into 6. So that is a 3, greatest common factor. So where do these go? Well, these are actually go into our sets of parentheses here. So I have 4w plus 3, 5w minus 2, and we can check this. This is going to be 20w squared. Here's 15w minus 8w. That'll give me 7w. And then a positive 3 minus 2 will give me the negative 6. So it looks like we have finally completely factored this problem.